set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth.
It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season.
And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, December 10th edition, as we continue to track this coaching search. And guys, I think this thing is all but wrapped up, all but just waiting on the official announcements now. Last night, it was 48 hours ago, and things changed a lot in those 24 hours. And then we sat here last night, and I told you guys how I was feeling, and things kind of have not only trended that way, but have trended that way even more to the point where I personally, just personal speculation here, feel confident that tomorrow the head coach will be named at WVU. We know it's going to be within 24 to 48 hours, and I'll show you how we know that here momentarily. If you guys haven't seen them, I'll provide you guys the latest updates from throughout today that went on, like I have done throughout this coaching search here daily, as it has been on these live streams. And I really appreciate you guys continuing to show out for these. Ton of people in here yet again, and I appreciate the great engagement. If you are in here, throw your thoughts in the chat. I'll try and catch up with those throughout the stream as well. If you're a channel member, I'll definitely try and pick yours out. But if you want yours to stand out and guarantee your comment gets read, pulled up on the screen, the foolproof way is, of course, send it as a super chat, and we appreciate that. But if you're watching this live or in a playback, just be sure hit that thumbs up button. Helps us a ton, helps us hit the YouTube algorithm. And be sure to subscribe here for a ton of Mountaineer football content, including covering the conclusion of this coaching search, recruiting coverage, transfer portal coverage, all that throughout the offseason. It's going to be a fun time building a roster and building a coaching staff here, and we'll be covering it on the Country Roads webcast. So with no further ado, guys, let's get into kind of the updates that went on throughout the day. So last night when we were doing the stream, we were kind of speculating about the in-person interviews because it had been rumored that it was Andy Kotelnicki, Jeff Monken, and Rich Rod to get the in-person interviews. That's still all only ones that I think have gotten the in-person interviews, and now we've even got confirmation that those in-person interviews wrapped up today. I believe Rich Rod's in-person interview was today. And, getting the last interview is probably a good sign as well, as to go with other signs. So personally, right now, like I said, it's always up to, change. I've been trying to tell you guys throughout this search, can change at any moment as things are always fluid. But right now, I feel pretty confident in saying that I feel like Rich Rodriguez will be the next head coach at WVU, guys. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now, where things seem to be trending and have been since this morning. Got a super chat here. I appreciate that, Big Dan T. You're the man. Q Country Roads, really appreciate that 1999 super chat from Big Dan T. Hey, Q Country Roads indeed. It's going to be jamming throughout the Mountain State tomorrow as WVU finally hires a football coach, and I think that's what I'm planning on doing. Whenever they make the hire, of course, it'll probably be while I'm at work, and I close tomorrow night, so it probably won't be streaming until like around this time again tomorrow. when I get to talk about it, and the news will probably come out throughout the day, knowing my luck. But I think I'm planning to do a stream where we kind of show some Rich Rod clips, like some of the ones that I've shown leading up to here when I was waxing poetic and kind of hyping up Rich Rod and hoping it was him. If it does end up being him, kind of share some of those clips of his speeches and just fun Rich Rod clips and fun clips we remember, just kind of reminisce a little bit, have some fun, talk about the hire, and chat with you guys. But definitely, I feel like it's probably coming tomorrow personally. That's just how I'm feeling. But all right, let me get to the updates here. Appreciate all the engagement there. Like I said, throw your thoughts in the chat. I'll try and get to those throughout there. I really appreciate all you guys showing up tonight, even though we're running this a little bit later. But all right, the first major update that I saw this morning that really kind of sent this down the thing of, okay, this is all but confirmed right now, it sounds like, was 247. Of course, as I mentioned, throughout, Mike Kazaz has done, one of the best jobs covering this of anyone and keeping track of it. And he, in his update this morning, stated that last night, which would have been, maybe while we were streaming, maybe later, but word started to spread that WVU has its coach. And he said calls in and out of the Puskar Center, said it's Rich Rodriguez, and the news could be coming today, which would have been today. It says, it would appear, as I'm told, WVU wants to carefully orchestrate the announcement. So maybe that's why it didn't come today, I think, is maybe they didn't exactly have everything in line to do a nice announcement like they want. I know a lot of people were speculating the Pat McAfee show. He even addressed it on that show. But I would not be surprised if they announced it on there tomorrow. I think that's something you're still going to have to keep an eye on, because it would be an innovative way, and it would be a way that would get some press and have a lot of eyeballs on it as well. And especially, Pat mentioning it today that he would be up for it if West Virginia wanted to do that makes it seem like more of a possibility. So that was the first thing that we saw, and that was early this morning. And after that, it kind of sent everybody into a frenzy. And I'm sure most of you were like me. I wasn't the most productive at work today because I kept checking Football Scoop, checking everything, just trying to see if anything had broke on the news there, because we were expecting it to come out at any point today. I watched, the whole Pat McAfee show all 3 hours, had it playing on my phone and my earbud while I was at work. So, I was ready for it to hopefully break on there potentially. We'll see what happens. I think West Virginia has a press conference scheduled for tomorrow or Thursday, one of the two. So that's also a potential window you could look at for maybe something happening. But I would definitely keep an eye on that Pat McAfee show tomorrow after, of course, as you guys now know at this point, I think we were all getting a little bit nervous as the day went and we hadn't gotten any news. And I personally was starting to feel like, oh man, maybe it's not going to be Rich Rod if we haven't gotten this news. And it sounded like we were going to. But then just as I started to lose hope, late tonight, just about probably an hour ago, hope was restored via none other than Pac-Man Jones himself. And I'm going to share his clip that I really, I had a couple of thoughts about it. Number one, I feel like, okay, he's probably been told something and they probably told him not to say anything. And he just said, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. And number two was, I don't feel like he would have went out and said this stuff if he didn't feel 100% confident, if that it was a pretty much done deal in his eyes as well. But before I play that clip, just a couple of notes here. We had some national reporters talking about the hire. Brandon Marcello here of 247 and CBS. No hire yet as chatter heats up about Rich Rodriguez. President Gordon Gee hadn't chatted with AD Ren Baker the last 2 days. He tells 247/CBS Sports. But the AD and president are scheduled to speak tonight. So that was around, around 7 p.m. tonight, right? And funny enough, around the time that they would have spoken, because it's also believed today that Ren Baker went to Alabama to have the in-person interview with Rich Rodriguez. And of course, after we saw that tweet, and when Ren Baker would have came back and had a chance to speak to Gordon Gee, then we get finally the one a lot of people have been waiting on is, of course, Pete Thamel coming with some news on the WVU coaching search. And West Virginia has completed in-person interviews, he says, for the next football coach, and school officials are expected to make a decision in the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, what that tells me, which actually Pac-Man's clip that I'm going to play for you guys came out a little bit before this Pete Thamel tweet, which a lot of people were saying maybe that forced West Virginia to put out a Thamel tweet to let people know the hiring official announcement was coming, since he kind of leaked it. I don't know. But a couple of things here that I'm thinking about with this right now that really make me I would say 75 to 80%, maybe even go to 90% that it's going to be Rich Rod announced as the coach, is everything, of course, leading up to it that we talked about in the previous stream. And also just the fact that they're saying 24 to 48 hours, right? So that is at the latest Thursday, which if it's tomorrow, that fits right in with the timeline that I told you guys originally. I think it was on the Sunday stream that I felt like it could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday range. But nonetheless, Thursday at the latest is what, 48 hours would be, right? And we know that Jeff Monken, who was the other candidate that had the in-person interview, plays in the Army-Navy game on Saturday, and I highly doubt he would want him to be announced as the coach of another team, a day and a half before he's about to play that big rivalry game, their kind of big matchup that they look forward to every year, right? I highly doubt that that's going to be the case personally. Like, it's just probably not going to happen. So if they're announcing in the next 24 to 48 hours, what do we know? We know that they did a big group of Zoom interviews when we go back and track this thing from the beginning. Double-digit Zoom interviews. Then we knew they were going to cut that list down. We knew that from reports, and we knew that from Ren Baker's press conference. And we know that they cut that list down, and then we're moving on to in-person interviews, which we knew from reports and knew from Ren Baker's press conference. And what have we seen over the past, two days or so is, of course, it's been flight tracker season going around, right, on social media, on message boards, everything. And you've seen flights to where? You had the State College smoke, and that day it kind of looked like it may have been Kotelnicki's job. And then, of course, he ends up not taking it. And then, of course, you get the flight to New York, which would be, of course, the in-person interview for Jeff Monken. And the three that we knew were reported for in-person interviews were Andy Kotelnicki, Jeff Monken, and Rich Rodriguez. Andy Kotelnicki had his, pulled out of the race. Jeff Monken had his. And then today it's believed Rich Rodriguez had his. His is the final one. And we know Kotelnicki's out of the race. We know two people have had in-person interviews, Monken and Rich Rod. And then the day that they come back from Rich Rod's in-person interview, we start to get leaks. And then we get the announcement that it's coming out in 24 to 48 hours. Accompany that with the, guys on 247 making, their report earlier in the morning that I referenced earlier in the stream. And you read those tea leaves along with what I just stated there about the Army-Navy game being Saturday. And Jeff Monken being the only other option that we really know of that's even had an in-person interview. And I don't see how you can't read the tea leaves. And it looks like Rich Rod is coming home, guys. We're going to be holding the rope. The hard edge is coming back. We're going to be spotting the ball. And that got me hype as hell. And you know what else got me hype as hell is Pac-Man Jones talking about it and potentially leaking the news on social media in this clip. So I'm going to share this with you guys. And then that's pretty much all I have update-wise, guys. But want to catch up with you guys, talk a little bit in the chat there, but it looks like it's real, guys. It looks like it's happening, barring any last unforeseen surprises over that next 24 to 48 hour window that Pete Thamel is talking about. I think all signs point to Rich Rodriguez coming home to be the 36th coach in West Virginia history and his second stint as the WVU football coach. And that's got to be is that the first two-time stint? First one that I know of, definitely first modern day. If it ends up happening, and fingers crossed. You guys know that was my favorite pretty much from the beginning. Once I, made my list and then started picking out some of my favorites, he was always in that group and was always one I was leaning towards, and then really became my favorite not long after that. And you guys have heard me sing his praises, so I'm happy as hell. And when that official announcement comes through, I might shed a tear, man. It's going to be emotional, and it's going to be a big thing, though, for the university and, for multiple reasons, and I've covered them a ton. I won't get into it yet again. You guys have probably been following these streams and don't want to hear me repeat myself, but I think the money that's coming along is going to be huge. We're going to be able to build a great roster. We already have a great infrastructure. We know the program's in a much better spot for him to take it over versus what it was when Neil Brown had to take over from Dana. And we've seen Rich Rod had success at WVU when he had less, right? And couldn't get anything from the athletic department to help him monetarily, facilities, anything. Now he has an athletic department that's willing to help him and wants to make this thing successful, and we get to see what he can do with those resources. So I'm just super excited about that, and I think this is going to be a great move for WVU football if this does indeed end up being the case. But one reason that we're thinking it really is the case, aside from everything I just told you, one huge bombshell is, of course, last night on the stream we talked about and shared Pac-Man's tweet where he said I was right with a bunch of eyeball emojis, and we kind of figured he was referencing Rich Rod returning back home, right? And tonight he just came out and said, "Hey, screw it. I think it's pretty much a done deal enough for me to be able to put this out like this now." And so he just came with a full-on video and just said it all right here. And obviously, it's set Mountaineer Nation ablaze, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. But if you haven't seen it, here it is, the big bombshell from Pac-Man Jones that really leads everyone to believe that it's all but official, as it showed in the thumbnail there for this video. But here it is for your own enjoyment, guys. Pac-Man Jones.
It's official. WVU is back. Rich Rodriguez is back in Morgantown. Hey, to everybody in WVU, everybody in the state of West Virginia, y'all got two things to be really happy about. One, Marshall, Coach Gibby, fucking unbelievable coach. Without him, I would not be where I'm at. Number two, the toughness of West Virginia, Morgantown, WV Mountaineers is back. Do you hear me? Now, let me tell all y'all recruits, because we only recruit two things. If you don't want to be coach hard, you don't want to play hard, you don't want to be better, don't come. We trying to win, period, point blank. Shout out to Coach Rod. Shout out to Warren, the AD. Shout out to Pat McAfee and everybody else. Y'all think I don't know what's going on. Smell me.
Which I know the funny part is he accidentally called Ren Warren at the end, which is funny because I've always, when we hired Ren Baker, I was like, we hired Warren Baker? Warren Baker's going to be our AD, the guy that used to play for us and that calls the basketball games. So it's just funny that we confuse his name with Warren, considering there is a Warren Baker involved in the program, of course, but obviously referencing Ren at the end. But if that doesn't get your juices flowing, I don't know what will. And that's exactly what I've been saying here, guys, is getting that hard edge back, getting that toughness back. And you see the excitement right there just from it maybe being official right there from Pac-Man that Rich Rod's coming home. And he also would go on share another video a couple minutes later talking about how he's getting involved now with the program and wants to be involved monetarily. Says he's going to donate $100K, or I think it was $100K, to any defensive back that ends up with 2 picks in a game. So, I mean, there you go right there. I'm talking about with the money that's going to follow Rich Rod. There it is. And there's, the former player support. And hey, one thing to not forget about Pac-Man is the fact that he's the guardian of a little wide receiver that's only one of the top prospects in the 2026 class, by the name of Chris Henry Jr. Yes, Chris Henry, Slim's son. Rest in peace to Chris Henry, one of the great receivers here. Currently committed to Ohio State, but you got to think if Rich Rod is coming back, that we may be able to get back into that picture with Chris Henry Jr. as well, which would be another big plus to bringing Rich Rod back home as well, if it does end up being the case. But try and catch up on some of your all's comments here now. Throw them in there. Any questions, comments you got there. I'll try and catch up on some of these throughout here. I guess we should throw a poll in, man. The poll here for this stream is going to be pretty simple. Will you be happy if Rich Rod is named WVU's next head coach? And of course, just a simple yes or no. All right. There it is. Poll going up, guys. The past few streams, the poll of the night, of course, has been kind of a multiple choice of who's your favorite. And funny enough, here on these streams, it's been pretty much unanimously, I think 3 nights in a row, Rich Rod was the winner in those polls. And so now when it seems like it may be trending that way, felt like it was only fitting for the poll of the night to be, will you be happy if he is officially announced as the next head coach at WVU? So vote in that poll here. We'll wrap that up and I'll share the results before we end the stream. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've got update wise there, guys. I'm going to catch up on some of your all's comments here in the chat a little bit, and then we'll wrap this one up before too much longer, because I didn't want to make this one too lengthy, but definitely had to come with another stream tonight after it looks like everything is maybe all but official, and fingers crossed, don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but we could be bringing the prodigal son home. Let's see what we got here. Mountaineer Athlete says Mountaineer Nation is about to blow up. Oh man, I know. Like just imagine, because like it's been a frenzy already, just going through this search, right? So it's once it's announced, I can only imagine the frenzy that's going to be happening then. It's going to be wild. And it's been such a fun search to track and try and follow the twists and the turns. And I hope you guys have been able to keep up to date with it with my updates here. I've tried to keep you guys up to date with it with as much as I've known and been able to gather just from reading the tea leaves and stuff and different updates from different sources. But it's been a hell of a coaching search, man. And all in all, I think I'm really happy about it because it ended up going in the direction that I kind of hoped that it would. Um, you know, no hate on Jeff Monken. I wouldn't have been as happy with that decision. But I think the two that it kind of really seemed like being the main finalists, of course, being Kodal, Nicky, and Rich Rod, were two of my favorites from, kind of the initial 25 candidate list that I threw together here. And of course, Rich Rod being the choice, if it is the case, is going to make me super ecstatic. So I got to say, I feel like this has been a thorough search from Ren Baker, and I feel like he's definitely done his I'm so damn excited I can't talk. God, Jordan, get it out right. He's done his due diligence in this search, obviously, I think. And I know there's been previous reports, and a lot of people speculated that maybe some of the donors, and the big money people, the Pat McAfees of the world, were trying to strong arm him into hiring Rich Rod. But I don't feel like that was the case. I feel like a lot of them probably wanted to know that Rich Rod was a candidate, and then they kind of finally let just Ren go through his process. Because I feel like if they were strong arming him, it would have been something that would have been done quicker. I feel like just the way we saw things unfold, it felt like to me, Ren still said, I'm going to go through my process. I'm going to do my interviews. I'm going to cut down my list. And, if Rich Rod's on it, I'll keep you all up to date. But I'm still going to treat it as any other thing. And he's going to have to, do a good job in these interviews and blow me away. And maybe he did. What's going on, Nathan? Nathan Scott says he was at his interview for 8 hours. I didn't know the time frame today, but if so, then he was thoroughly vetted and thoroughly passed a strong test there if it was that lengthy of an interview process. But I also wouldn't be surprised because we know how thorough Ren Baker likes to be in these searches, as he's talked about and as he's shown to us, and hopefully he's about to nail another one. And I think, as we shared on the last night's stream, some of the ESPN personalities talking about it. If you do hire Rich Rod at WVU, you got a chance to win this, cycle here, this coaching carousel that's, not as big as most off seasons. A lot of that due to the rev share coming in and such, but you got a chance to win it because I think the two most talked about storylines are going to be, Rich Rod and Bill Belichick. At this point, if Bill Belichick does end up taking that job at UNC, like it looks like it's kind of trending that way now, if they'll have him. But it's also going to be interesting. A storyline that people will be talking about within the Big 12 is two teams hiring back former coaches. UCF already hiring back Scott Frost, and West Virginia looking like it's trending towards a Rich Rod announcement in 24 to 48 hours potentially. So fun times, man. Fun times. The recruiting is about to skyrocket, Chief Fan says, and I agree with that for sure. Ernie B says, I can't wait until the announcement. It's got to be tomorrow. Let's go. Yeah, Ernie, that's where I'm at as well. Like I said, pure speculation here, but I'm expecting the announcement tomorrow. I'd be surprised, nearly shocked if the announcement didn't come tomorrow. I really would. I know they said 24 to 48 hours there in the Thamel tweet, but that's, obviously just putting the extra day in there just in case something was to happen, contracts, have to be finalized, stuff like that, maybe. So maybe that's why they give themselves the extra day just in case, because they want to be sure and give Thamel the correct window. You can't tell Thamel it's going to be tomorrow and then it end up being Thursday. So they have to throw the 24 to 48, but I'm fully expecting it to be tomorrow myself. I would be surprised if this thing stretched out till Thursday. Just Me says, Rich Rod, baby, spot the damn ball. That's right. First we spot the ball, then we hold the rope. I like that. It's not okay, golf. Redemption Tour starring Rich Rod. Hey, that's right. Somebody get ready to make the documentary, or somebody call ESPN and tell them we need a 30 for 30 on this redemption story. And we are ready to toll the bell as well. That's something that, I've been sharing the fun videos. There's another one. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up as well, because I shared that on, I think it was on Facebook or Twitter earlier today. After I heard the early announcement that it was looking like it was probably going to be Rich. And let me see if I can pull this up, and I'm going to share this video here momentarily. You guys know I've been towards the tail end of these streams, sharing some videos that'll get us hype for the potential Rich Rod return. Got another one here that you guys will remember. And I hope that they bring this back. I know we've talked in the previous streams. We want to see them bring back the inflatable helmet, all the stuff, but there's a video as well I'd like to see them bring back. I'll share that here towards the tail end of the stream. That's what we'll do before we wrap up. We'll share the video and we'll share the poll results here since we've kind of gone through the update. Wanted to get it off at the front of the episode there instead of the tail end there, since we had a lot of people in here right from the beginning. But I do appreciate everybody that's in here, whether you're watching this live or on a playback. Just be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. It really helps a ton. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for further Mountaineer football coverage. And if you haven't yet, become a channel member here. Hit that join button down there beside the channel name near the video description. And for as low as $1.99 a month, you can help us keep the mics recording and the cameras rolling here. You get WVU football helmets beside your name. You get player grades videos. You get snap count series. You get depth chart projections, film reviews, game rewatch commentaries, all of that. And we really appreciate that support and appreciate our channel members here at the Country Roads webcast. They're the catalyst that keeps the channel going. But hey, the fast, easy, and free way, we appreciate that as well, just by hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel. But let's continue catching up in the comments in the meantime and in between time here. Nathan Scott says, I'm a flight radar nerd. Hey, we need the flight radar nerds at these times, man, because the flight tracker season stuff was real. I don't even know how they, find that, look all that up, but, more power to them, because it really kept making it more interesting and intriguing throughout the search. Eric said, Jordan, I think Pat could get the game day for 9/13. I hope he does. It would be perfectly fitting. And tell me that it's not like a thing that seems like it's just destined. It's like fate, right? That 2025 would be the year that Rich Rod comes back, right? Because after we play Pitt in 2025, the series goes on hiatus for a couple of years. So not only does he get to come back a year that we play Pitt, which is interesting enough, but the day that we play Pitt is September 13th, 9/13. Like, you can't make this up. That's just literally destiny right there. That's destiny, and I hope he hangs 100. Mountaineer Athlete says, time to right the wrongs of the past. It's time for redemption. Time for Rich to change his legacy. The native son comes home. Well said, Mountaineer Athletes. And indeed, that's what I think is also beautiful about it, is him coming home is not only going to be great for us and our football program. We're going to get our hard edge back. We're going to start winning again. Maybe break the curse that it seems like we've been under since he left, for one, but also it allows Rich Rod the chance to come back and fix what would have been a tarnished legacy that he left with the way things ended in that first stint that was, so successful right there at the tail end before all that happened right there. Of course, there was a travesty, but now he got a chance to right that and fix his legacy forever, because now if he comes back and he leads us to a Big 12 championship game or a Big 12 title and a potential college football playoff berth, then guess what? Then his legacy is Rich Rod, who, yeah, he did wrong at one time, but look how he had the program at that point, and he didn't have the resources, and he left and went away for nearly 20 years. But then he came back, and when he had the resources and he had the athletic department that would support him, he made good and got West Virginia their first ever Big 12 title and got him to a college football playoff. That would then be his legacy. That's pretty damn cool. That's pretty damn cool. Steve Huffman said, I'm not getting my hopes up until it's official. That was me all throughout today when the news wasn't breaking. But now, of everything that's came out in the past couple of hours or so, my hopes are damn through the roof again. They've done skyrocketed. I couldn't control it now at this point. I feel like it's happening. I feel like it's happening for sure. Big Dan T says, any idea why Kotelnicki dropped out? From my understanding, it was pretty much just the college football playoff and in the gap that would be there, potentially not having him until, mid-January, because Penn State could make a run to the Final Four. Potentially, they're probably going to be favored in the first couple of games in the playoffs. And, because of that, he wasn't going to leave his team, which is commendable of him. And then it's also commendable of Ren Baker that he knew he couldn't wait that long either. West Virginia needs to get somebody in as quickly as possible. So I think that was the big hindrance there, or it may have been Kotelnicki's job, if not. But that again speaks to that fate thing I was talking about, just kind of the way everything worked out. Help make Mountaineer football great again, Drumwolf says, and indeed I hope he does. spot the ball and play like your hair's on fire, fellas. Hey, that's right, Mountaineer athletes. Put a little bit more tape on, a little bit more hair in the helmet, lace the shoes up a little bit tighter. That'd be nice. Hey, I really appreciate that, Salt of the Earth. Looks like you're a Texas Tech fan, which, hey, you guys are looking good, man. You beat the two teams that played for the Big 12 title, and Joey McGuire, I think, is going to have that thing rolling there, and I really appreciate the kind words. There are a lot of WVU shows. That's one good thing that we have about our fan base is a lot of support, a lot of different content you could take in regards to WVU, but I really appreciate those kind words, man. Eric, I think that I would probably expect Rod Smith to come along with him from Jacksonville State. And maybe he brings a couple other people as well. Maybe he brings Rick Trickett to coach the O-line. And I think Brandon Napoleon's there as defensive backs coach, son of Eugene Napoleon. Maybe he brings him as well. And then maybe he keeps Blaine Stewart. That would be pretty cool. It's a potential. I'm sure he'll keep Dan Nealon, who's been on equipment. He might keep Mike Joseph. I would say, even though he always had Mike Barwis when he was here. Mike Joseph came in after he left, but Mike Joseph's been here so long. I'd be surprised if Mike Joseph left, but you never know. And then some other guys you got to look at that he could potentially bring in. What about the other Tricketts? Clint, Travis? They're both on the market, I believe. Those are two other guys he could potentially bring in. Not to mention, guys coaching in the NFL, the Pat Whites, Jamal Adais of the world. You never know. You never know. C. Spinnert, I appreciate you sharing your opinion here. I try and be objective here and share opinions from both sides here, so I do appreciate you tuning in and chiming in. He says, I personally think if it's Rich Rod, it's a mistake, but he hopes he's wrong and the Mountaineers have a success in his second tenure. Would love to be wrong, hate to be right, just see him dividing. I think maybe you may see a little bit of that initially, but personally, I've been very surprised. It's been heavy, everyone wanting Rich Rod from what I've seen, like lately on social media, even people that were against it originally. So I would say it's like 60 to 65% of the fan base has already bought into it. Maybe you could push 70 on that. And I think the 30% that you're talking about that could be a little bit divided may be that way, like when the hires first announced, and they may bitch and moan a little bit leading up to the season. But I think if West Virginia starts winning within the first year or two, that'll change really quickly, and they'll enjoy the program again. Because say what you want to about, the way things ended and the way you feel about the Rich Rod since then, but it was super fun. That was one of the most fun times to be a Mountaineer football fan. And I don't know if it's been that fun since then. So if nothing else, I think we're going to get the excitement back. We're going to get the hard edge back, as Pac-Man said in his thing there. We're going to get the, toughness back to WVU football if it is Rich Rod. Still got to keep throwing that if in there. Like I said, a lot of smoke now. I'm pretty confident that it will be, but we still got to wait and see till it's official. Rich Rod has to be the coach. We haven't been a powerhouse since he left, Paul Gee says, and I 100% agree. What else do we got here? Sean Murray says, I will be incredibly excited. If Rich Rod comes, do you think he keeps our QBs and running backs? I mean, if I was a QB or a running back, I would 100% want to play for Rich Rod. So I think there's a good chance, because if I'm looking at what he's done with quarterbacks and running backs in the past, I'm like, why would I leave? My numbers are about to go way up. If I would love to see Jaheim White in a Rich Rod offense too, man. Woo, that'd be a lot of fun. Jaheim and CJ together in that thing. Hopefully we can keep them both. Meat Hook, whatever happened to Jimbo, really wasn't ever in the mix. I don't even think he was one of the initial Zoom interviews, which they casted a wide net with. But if so, he never made it past that stage even. But I don't think there was really enough interest from what I've heard from either end. Or maybe, Rich Rod just was their preference, but never really was a factor in the search too much. Rich Rod can recruit damn straight, Paul Gee. Indeed he can. James Weekly said, I'll buy season tickets even if I won't be there for them. Hey, that's the true excitement, right? That's the true excitement for sure. Hey, got another Trooper Chat here from Caleb Davis. I appreciate you, man, even though you're sharing an opinion counter to mine, hey, you can throw that super chat and talk trash or whatever you want. I'll throw it there on the screen for you. But Rich Rod is washed. He said, I tend to disagree, considering he just took a team from the FCS to the FBS, first team ever to win a bowl game, their first season in FBS last year, and now their second season ever in FBS. He's already won a conference championship, has the CUSA Conference Player of the Year. His quarterback threw for over 2,100 yards and ran for 1,200. His running back ran for over 1,600 yards. That offense still works. You look everywhere he's been, save for Michigan's the one example you can throw at me that he hasn't won, and he really just didn't get the time that he needed, because you look the year after he left, they won a BCS Bowl with his players, and that was the only year Brady Hoke was successful. Arizona wasn't winning before he got there. He has one of the higher winning percentages of recent Arizona coaches. He started winning with them, took them to a Pac-12 championship game, won Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Look everywhere he's been. He's turned a QB into a star. Go back to Rasheed Marshall, Pat White. You can go back to Woody Dantzler at Clemson, even if you want, actually. But then Rasheed Marshall, Pat White. Then you go to Denard Robinson. You go to Khalil Tate at Arizona. Then you go to Zion Webb and Tyler Huff at Jack State. So hardly washed, in my opinion, Caleb. But hey, to each their own. To each their own, man. I still appreciate you sharing your opinion and tuning in and chiming in here, man, for sure. Jeff Burton says, hell yes, spot the ball. That's what I'm talking about, Jeff. Chris Assistant says, can Pac-Man flip Chris Henry Jr.? That's one of the big things we're hoping for, if it does indeed be Rich Rod. That's one of the things to keep an eye on for sure. Let's not forget we were Big East Conference, easy teams. We're Big 12 now. Rich Rod can't win big conference football. But also the Big 12 now is a lot different. It's not the Big 12 when we first came into it. We're pretty evenly matched with a lot of teams left in here, kind of similar to how we were in the Big East when Rich Rod was winning there. And Rich Rod won in the Pac-10, or I don't know if it was Pac-12 then or if it was still Pac-10, but he won there. So he can, and I think that he will show you that he will be able to win it again. And Christian, I think he'll show that to you. But hey, I get that opinion. Henry has already signed. William Burleson said, no, he's committed. He hasn't signed yet. He's class of 2026, I believe. Let me make sure I'm correct on that. But I believe he's next year's class. So I don't think he's signed yet. Yeah, he's 2026 class. So committed to Ohio State, but not signed yet. So still definitely very much up for grabs. Let's see. Drum Wolf says the girls that voted no can go support Marshall. He's referencing the poll there, which I will end the poll here before too much longer. We'll get the results there. I'm trying to catch up here in the chat before we get to that and before I share the video to wrap up this stream, this update stream here on the coaching search. But I appreciate all this great engagement. Sean Matheny says, I'm all for Rich Rod coming back. So pumped for it. But do you think sales will go down from the fans at first till he proves himself to the fans and wins? I don't, Sean. I think that not only are we going to have more money coming in as far as the NIL and the extra backing there, I think that you're going to see, excitement back in the program, as I kind of talked about and touched on a little bit earlier there. Touchdown City's going to return, that hard edge, that toughness, as Pac-Man talked about in his videos. And I think that fans are going to like that and seeing that come back. And I think the excitement will be there by the time the season rolls around. And I certainly think it'll be better attendance numbers than you would have had if you would have kept Neil Brown 100%, because it would have been very lackluster at that point. Greg Day, piss is so hot, I sound like a steam engine. Hey, everybody's piss is running hot tonight, brother. Everybody's got that hot piss because it looks like Rich Rod is coming home. That piss is steaming when you put it in the toilet. And then 247 people know what I'm talking about. Hire Pat White as QB coach. Paul Gee says, hey, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against bringing him in on the staff. I would not be against bringing him in on the staff. Let's see. Overworked, underpaid says, if it's Rich Rod, I'm calling it. Our schedule sets up good, 10-2. Oh, already the optimism coming in from overworked, underpaid. I like it. I'll be excited for the 2025 season prediction roundtable podcast here on the CRW show whenever we get a chance to do that, when that comes around, which will be, of course, the start of season 8 of the show, which is hard to believe already. But yeah, I mean, we definitely have an easier schedule next year as far as playing, out of conference. We'll play Ohio and Robert Morris, which is a lot better than the 2 Power 5s we've been playing out of conference. Still got the backyard brawl, But of course, it is back in Morgantown, and I'm excited for that one. TD says if Rich Rod does come back, could we see Pat White possibly being on the staff? It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Definitely can't rule it out. Mountaineer Athlete says we've tried hiring the hot coordinator in Holgs. We tried hiring the hot G5 coach in Neil Brown. Time to try a proven head coach that's already won here in the past. Spot the ball. Hey, that's right. That's right, indeed, man. Indeed. Let's see here. I think with the portal open, they would announce it soon. Steve Huffman says, yeah, Pete Thamel says 24 to 48 hours, and I'm going to be very surprised if it gets close to that 48. I think it's coming tomorrow, Steve. I really do. I would be surprised if you don't get the announcement tomorrow. Brian Ross says Hard Edge is back. Indeed. I'm trying to get caught up in the chat, guys. I'm going to catch a swig of my water real quick. All right. Hey, that's right. Pac did tell it. Pac beat Thamel to it, didn't he? Which that's my big thing there. I don't think Pac-Man would put that out if he hadn't gotten some type of word. And then the fact that Thamel's tweet comes out after that, and like I said, the fact that they're announcing it within 24 to 48 hours to me rules out Monken, who was the only other one that really it could be, because he's not going to announce that 2 days before his team plays the Army-Navy game, their biggest game of the season. So that's just why I feel like it's got to be Rich. It's got to be. Let's see. John Park says fantastic unofficial news. Yeah, keyword unofficial for sure. We're still waiting, the official stuff, for sure. Mountaineer Athlete says never seen me cheesing this much. Love it. Hey, you guys knew I was going to be ecstatic if this ended up being the case. I was hoping it would go that way, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. You're going to really see me excited when we're coming on here once the hire is official, which hopefully we're doing tomorrow night. We'll see what happens for sure. What else we got here? Jay McClanahan, Hard Edge is back. That's right. Hold the rope, spot the ball. Big Aaron says, just got in here. When are they supposed to make the announcement? So it's within 24 to 48 hours, and I'm thinking it's coming tomorrow, Big Aaron. I really am. Caleb Davis, appreciate you throwing in another super chat. But the game was not thrown, man. That's just the dumbest narrative ever. It's just bullshit. Why would he throw the game? Makes no sense. It's just ridiculous argument. And of course, no one will ever forget it, man. We don't need to be reminded. But we're coming here, and Rich Rod is coming home to fix the legacy, dude. To fix the legacy. If he threw the game, I don't think he would be ever wanting to return and be apologetic and be going on podcasts saying he regretted leaving WVU and now trying to come home and ride off into the sunset with us, making us a winning program before he does it, man. So he didn't throw that game. December 1st, 2007, shittiest day of my life, but it wasn't thrown by Rich Rodriguez. Could he have called some different plays and not been as stubborn as he was? Absolutely. USF was, just manning up and on the outside and trying to forcing us to, throw over the middle, and we never really would do it. And it was open, and Rich Rod was just kept hoping that one of our runs was going to break us, because it always did all season, and it just never happened. But he didn't throw the game, bro. Sorry, Caleb, but he didn't. But I do appreciate your super chat. Eric Flowers with the $5 super chat. The issue is two camps. Did Rich Rod abandon WVU, or did WVU screw him? And it's a little bit of both, really. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, I would say, personally. But I definitely think he has valid reasons that a lot of people either fail to realize or don't care to realize in hindsight, as, they wouldn't give him the resources. And which is just another reason, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that I'm excited about this move, because of the fact that he's now going to have those resources that he didn't even have prior, and he was winning here then. So, I'm excited about that. If it happens, got to keep throwing that out there. We still got to wait and see. Yeah, good point, George Edwards. Andre Devine and Noel are at Jack State also. Yeah, I think Noel was involved with the program somehow, and his son, Andre Devine, one of the running backs there. So, hey, that could be a transfer to look at. Caleb Davis, appreciate the other super chat, man. Hey, you can keep throwing in the negative stuff about Rich Rod. I'll keep taking your super chats, man. I appreciate it. It's not like you're throwing stuff up that we don't all know about. Yes, he was fired at Arizona for off the field issues, but also those charges were then dropped after the fact. That's how he was able to, come back and get back into coaches. If they weren't dropped, he wouldn't have been able to get back into it. And obviously, Ren Baker, if he interviewed him for multiple hours, you don't think things like that came up. And I'm pretty sure I trust Ren Baker's judgment on things like that as well. But do appreciate your super chat again, Caleb. Throwing information out about Rich Rod. The AD problem is gone now. John Park says Ren Baker changes the whole atmosphere here. Go Rich Rod. Indeed. And, that's another thing there is Ren Baker is going to do everything he can to make the football program successful as well. So you got to trust him. John says here, John Washtovics. I don't know. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, John. But nonetheless, he said, doesn't matter. It's 17 years ago. The administration was penny pinching and Rich was young and ambitious. If you want to hate somebody, hate Michigan. There you go. Let's see what else we got. TD says they won the CUSA championship game by like 40. I think it was like 40 exactly, 52-12, if I'm not mistaken, or 52-15, one of the two. Let's see. Yeah, 52-12 it was. Okay. Appreciate the confirmation there, Josh Johnston. Let's see. Yeah, Rich beat number 3 Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Hardly a weak team. And I think people tend to forget, just because we're in the Big 12 now and the Big East gets a bad rap, but I think people forget that there, those years that we had those 3 straight double-digit seasons, Rutgers was pretty much consistently ranked a lot. Louisville was ranked and a lot of times top 10, top 5. South Florida was in the top 10 at times. Connecticut was ranked. Cincinnati had been ranked. So it's not like, there were bunch of scrubs he was beating up on. South Florida was in the top 10, top 5. When we played them, we had 2, I think, matchups with Louisville where we were both in the early top 5 teams. So, it's not like there was any scrubs. And he beat plenty of ranked teams. I guarantee you that during his tenure. Beat 2 ranked teams back to back, number 3 and number 10. Yeah, can't forget the drubbing of number 3 VT. What was that, 01, 03? I think it was 03, right? TD says, never forget running back to the stadium at the Louisville game way back when. Let's get back to that. Indeed. Wyatt asks, do you expect an announcement tomorrow? I do. I do personally. Like I said, that's not a source thing or me saying that I know anything. It's literally just purely speculation that I would be surprised if they waited until Thursday. I think that it's coming tomorrow, personally. Just how I'm feeling. Big Aaron says so many former players will be coming back to support the program that haven't been able to in the past. Great point as well. Nathan Scott says Rich Rod could also groom the next head coach for when he retires. Another great point. Q says, is Pac-Man telling the truth? We won't know till we know the official announcement, but got to hope that he is. And I don't think that he would put that out unless he felt, pretty much 100% confident. So got to hope that he is, for sure. And I think that there's a lot of smoke considering the fact that earlier in the day, there were reports, like I talked about earlier, the 247 report that it, was being pretty much all but confirmed that it was Rich Rod then later tonight getting that, and then Thamel's tweet. And like I said, the fact that it's 24 to 48 hours to me, I don't think can be munkin'. He's not going to announce a hiring at another job 2 days before they play their biggest game of the season. It's got to be Rich. That's how I feel. And yes, I'm expecting tomorrow. Mountaineer Athlete says attendance will be insane next season. I tend to agree with that. LB says, I just want WVU to be relevant again, which is why this move makes sense and could be the bridge that gets us there for sure. Mark Thomas says Pac was blazed. Yeah, he was, and he admitted it in a follow-up video, but no surprise there. He owns, that weed company or whatever. That's kind of his brand and stuff, right? So it's on brand for him. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I feel him. William Burleson said line coach from West Virginia too, isn't he? Yep. Rick Trickett, I would hope would come with him as well. One of our best line coaches ever, maybe our best line coach in school history, one of my all-time favorites. And as Jalen Jackson says here, Rod Smith is with Rich at Jack State. As his OC now and could potentially come as well. He was, the QB coach back in the day at WVU. Of course, Calvin McGee was the offensive coordinator at that time. Since Calvin McGee's, since passed away, rest in peace to another great one who I always loved and appreciated him because he stuck around for the Fiesta Bowl as well before he went and joined Rich Rod at Michigan. But, since Calvin McGee passed, Rod Smith took over that role as the offensive coordinator along with Rich Rod. So a lot of the same coaches that were with him at WVU are actually with him at Jacksonville State. Rod Smith, Rick Trickett, and, some others that have ties. So some of those members of those staff probably will come along with him, I'd say. Eric Weissong says Christmas comes early. That's how I'm feeling too, brother, if it does end up being true. Nate Scott says Blaine Stewart will probably remain on the staff. I think that would be, something that could potentially happen, obviously, with the relationship that Bill and Rich Rod had, longtime staff members together during his tenure. It could happen for sure. RWV says he hopes Rich is back, as do I. He'll only be a coach for 10, 12 years. He's 62 in May, which is fine, man. If we get a decade, that would be great. That's what I was kind of hoping was for a decade. And I think your initial contract will be about 4 or 5 years probably. But if we get 10 years, that's awesome. Because he can coach till he's 70, 72, something like that for sure, easily. We've seen coaches do it before. So, if we get a decade, I'd be happy with that. And I think that's longer than you'd get out of, some of the other candidates. If you hire someone that's an up-and-comer, they could be hired away in, 2, 3, 4 years. So, it could work for sure. Let's see. William Burleson, now we need to extend Ren Baker and give him a raise. Hey, I would second that right there. Ren Baker's done a hell of a job. I mean, look what he's done. Darren DeVries, Mark Kellogg, the volleyball coach. Of course, Steve Sabins, obviously that's kind of more of a Randy Mazey thing, but he's still involved with that. We get the black uniforms. We get our coal rush that we've been wanting for how long? He helps us deliver that. He's going to have us at the full amount of rev share, he says. If he brings back Rich and we get all that extra boost and have a chance to build a really special roster because all the money that'll follow Rich, Ren Baker deserves it, man. He would deserve it. That's a great point, William, for sure. Tim Lindsay says Coach Rod is a great coach. Trust me, the future is going to be great. 100%. That's right, Tim. Tim, you played for Rich, right? If I'm not mistaken. That name strikes me. I think I remember you, if it's the one I'm thinking of. And I really appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, if so, man. And I'm super excited, man. I can't wait. It's what I was hoping for all along, and it's great, man. I've got that shit-eating grin on my face, this whole stream, and rightfully so, if it does end up being the case, for sure. Meat Hook said, would Nico fit Rich Rod's offense? I think Nico would be an interesting fit for Rich Rod's offense because he can spin it and he can run it a little bit, as we've seen. So I think he would be an interesting fit. Now, there's another quarterback on the roster that I think could be a tailor-made fit for Rich Rod. Just depends on if he'd be ready to go right away or if he would have to, wait a couple years or wait a year behind Nico. And that's Khalil Wilkins. I think Khalil Wilkins would be awesome in Rich Rod's offense with his speed and his ability there. I think he would be great. That's funny right there, Wyatt. I don't know if that's before I said it too. I didn't even see your comment until just now. Khalil Wilkins would be a great thought. Yep, it really would. It really would. John Park, so just hook up Pac-Man to a lie detector and then we can go ahead and go official. Indeed. Hey, Paul Gee with some great words here. Golden Blue dude would be so happy tonight. Missed that dude. Hey, as do I, man. As do I. Was lucky enough to call him a friend and, work with him some. And Golden Blue dude was one of the best, man. And I would love to be watching him do a stream about it as well, for sure. Great words to say. Pac-Man is straight up, Eric Flower says, and I agree. I don't think he would lie about it, and I don't think he would, record a video and put it out if he wasn't nearly 100% confident. But guys, I'm going to wrap this up before too much longer. Almost caught up in the chat here for sure. But really appreciate all the great engagement here. Eric Weaver says Eugene Napoleon's son is a coach at Jackson State. Yes, he could come as well. I think he's a defensive backs coach, if I'm not mistaken. Could potentially be something that happens if it is indeed Rich Rod, like it looks like it could potentially be. Let's see here. I thought that was you, Tim. Hey, that's awesome, man. Appreciate you hopping in here, man. I thought that was you. I recognize the name. I was always one of those guys that had like the roster printed out, on a list and stuff for the college football game. So I always knew the names and numbers and so they always strike me when I see them. That's always one thing that I've always followed is the roster pretty heavily. So yeah, good to see you, man. Appreciate that. And hey, no one can, say it better than Tim then. He played for the guy. So there you go. If he's excited, we all should be as well, for sure. Rich Rod would be unstoppable with the portal and the money, Gary Rochford says. And I tend to believe that as well. Uber Beat says, I hope Rich Rod can develop guys like Traylon Ray and Rodney Gallagher. As do I. Tim says, the alumni want Rod. We played for him. There's a reason we want him. We know he will do great. And I'm in complete agreement with that. Rich Rod will win. He's a winner, and he's going to come here and he's going to win, and that's what we need right now. Hey, we've got a super chat here from John Park. Really appreciate that. $10 super chat. He says, Rich Rod, Darren DeVries, Ren Baker never get tired of winning. Hey, that's trio right there. And Ren Baker's hit home runs. Rich Rod, Darren DeVries, and Ren Baker, and we'll never get tired of winning. And it seems like we're hiring coaches that are winners under Ren Baker. So got to be happy about that. Just got to wait for this announcement to be official, but seems really good. Seems really good. Mark Thomas, appreciate that. He says Rich's longtime strength and conditioning coach Parker Whiteman is a hometown Kaiser dude, so he may come along with them. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Rich Rod's strength and conditioning was awesome while he was here. Mike Barr was one of the best ever, so I'm cool with whoever he's got with him now as well. Hey, what's up, Brad? Good to see you, brother. Hey, the co-host here of the CRW. Let's go. Hey, that's right. It's big time stuff, man. Hopefully, just waiting on the official announcement now. Sounds like, man. That's what it seems like, anyways. But appreciate you, bro. We're all three gonna have to get together and talk about this when this thing comes official. And we're gonna all, spoiler alert for you guys, but you guys are in here on the stream, so I may as well tell you, we'll be recording the bowl preview over the next couple of days or so as well. And we'll have that out hopefully over the weekend, of course, with the bowl game coming up on Tuesday. So we'll have another podcast episode coming at you guys. I know we never got to do a Texas Tech review podcast. Obviously, other things came along that took precedent, but we'll get back to that for that as well. Let's see. Finally, I think we're all caught up, guys. Rich Finster says it's time to come home. Let's go. Past time to come home, he says. Let's go. Hey, that's right. That's right, guys. And as I have done in all these previous streams, when we're talking this coaching search, I got to share, a fun Rich Rod video. And we've talked in the past about them hoping they bring back, all the stuff since we're, going back, bring back the inflatable helmet. But, another thing they should bring back is that awesome entrance video. That was one of my favorites. So that's what I'm going to share, guys. The 07 football entrance video. Good stuff here. And after that, we'll end the poll results and get ready to wrap up. So you guys got any final thoughts? Throw them in there. Other than that, I'll share the poll results and we'll get ready to wrap up this stream, as it looks like WVU is getting ready to wrap up their coaching search as well.
It's game time.
It's a beautiful day to play West Virginia football, isn't it? You compete on every snap. You have confidence in what you're doing. And you focus on playing West Virginia football for 60 minutes. Now listen to me. They need to feel our program tonight. Make sure they feel what West Virginia football is all about.
Watch this stuff short. Touchdown! It's an unbelievable run. He's got great speed. Slayton inside the 20. He's rolling. Touchdown, West Virginia.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You guys remember that one? That was always one of my favorites. So, I had to share that one. The stream before this, we shared, a couple of Rich Rod speeches and a couple of Rich Rod hype videos. So it's like the fourth night in a row, and may as well keep it going. It's been, good juju for this search thus far for it to go in the direction I was hoping, towards the Rich Rod direction. And that's just kind of the last thing, of course, I want to share here is to just recap the update for those that came in later. Seems like things are trending towards Rich Rod. Obviously, the video of Pac-Man being one thing, but then Pete Thamel saying 24 to 48 hours, which in my opinion more leans towards Rich Rod, because I don't think that Jeff Monken would announce, being hired as a new coach, 48 hours before their biggest game of the season. And we all also know the in-person interviews were completed with only those two. And of course, Kotelnicki was the other one in the mix there. And then he withdrew from the race. So that points to Rich Rod. There's also been earlier reports, like I shared earlier on 247, saying that as well. And so I think that I'm expecting tomorrow to get an announcement. And my personal opinion is it will be Rich Rod announced at the next WVU head football coach. But I want to see how you guys are feeling about that. Let me end the poll here, see how you guys are feeling. Hopefully you're in agreement with me and happy about it. But let's see here. I asked you guys, will you be happy if Rich Rod is named WVU's head coach? And 86% agree and say yes, spot the ball, versus 13% that voted no there. So resoundingly in favor of Rich Rod. And I think if my streams are speaking for anything, then it's speaking for a lot of people, bought in on Rich Rod, because the past 3 or 4 nights, it's been all positive Rich Rod results in the polls here in our polls of the night on these streams throughout this coaching search. But I really appreciate the great turnout tonight, guys. Got another super chat in here from Mountaineer Athletes. Appreciate that 199 super chat there. Mountaineer Athletes means a lot. And he says, this will bring us together redemption season. I completely agree. Couldn't agree more. And I really appreciate the support there. Just like I appreciate all of you guys that have supported throughout this stream and tuned in. And before you head out, like I said, just hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe here if you haven't already, and have that notification bell clicked. If this news does become official, you will see another live stream from us here at the Country Roads webcast tomorrow night. But really have enjoyed covering this coaching search with you guys, and enjoyed the great engagement and getting to chat with you guys about it. And looking forward to chat with you guys more about it in the near future as we continue to cover it and the rest of the offseason activities, which of course include building the roster and building the staff now as well, whoever the hire is, which let's hope that we're right and it's the prodigal son coming home. That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed, guys, and hopefully we'll get an announcement tomorrow. But that's kind of where we are now as we get ready to wrap this one up. I appreciate all the turnout tonight, and I always thank you guys so much here. I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.